You just see success when a child is at 12 and doesn't think they're doing well at school and doesn't pass too many exams, but's really creative in sport and creative in artwork. You see all those successes come back to visit us.
With the difference that we've made to families, we've enabled families to grow and thrive, engage with services, children attending school, get into better accommodation. Great success with our current food project, where we're taking cooking and food into the home and showing them how to cook good, healthy meals.
We have become an NOCN accredited centre, so we deliver maths and English. Every young person that's taken functional skills, entry level, level 1 or level 2 has passed. We do it one-to-one, but they're all young people that couldn't do it in a school in a group.
I think it's really important, particularly in the VCS and in all services, to evidence what you do, and we're really proud of a project that we did with Dorset Council to look at troubled families data. And we had a surprise impact on domestic abuse. By working with young people and parents, we were able to reduce the future incidence of domestic abuse by 51%, which is pretty extraordinary. And that was a surprise finding, and that's now been published in a scientific journal as a peer-reviewed paper. And I think that's something to celebrate, that by sharing data and working really in true partnership, we were able to find out something that was successful we didn't even know.
We know that there's been a huge increase in the number of young carers that have been identified and then referred for assessment at the local authority, which is just so important because it means that local authorities are becoming more aware of the numbers of young carers that they're dealing with in their communities, and then that can help us to advocate for more resources for young carers.
And we've noticed that when you really do wrap that intensive support off around people, you can bring about lasting change. So we've had some incredible stories of people finding employment, education, their own roof for the first time. Yeah, so lots of successes.
So currently we have quite a bad issue with substance misuse in Bridport, so especially operating the outreach, we now go out on the streets and find them on their own turf. Staffing is a concern. We put out ads for youth workers and we don't get this. It's not for everybody, and that's the main issue. We have a lot of people come and try the job, but they don't stay long.
We've got very wealthy people in rural Dorset, and we have very poor people, and those poorer people are fewer, and less people understand that they haven't got what everybody else has got. I think that's the young people have really said that's a real challenge for them, and that's why they're drawn to work, drawn to learn, but also drawn to earn money, which maybe not in a positive way.
We're seeing greater number of families and their children with poor, low mental health, anxiety, concern.
What was brilliant and what we found through COVID was the team managed. But I can say that I nearly died, so that was a big challenge for the organisation because it showed how strong the organisation is even without me. It means I can have holidays now.
We're in a financially challenging town, so we have to keep our prices really low, which means very little profit.
The main challenge we always face is sustainable funding. Young people at the moment are getting more complex, their needs are getting higher and more worrisome. But I think young people are troubled about the climate crisis, about the Ukraine war, about the cost of living crisis. They've got an awful lot on their plates.
A continued lack of understanding about the needs of the LGBT plus young people in Dorset.
For young carers, the pandemic was a really stressful time. Not only were they not in school, which actually a lot of young carers would describe as a break and respite from their caring role, they also had this increased fear that there was a virus out there that could kill the person that they were caring for. Young carers often talk about feeling isolated because their caring role can often impact the relationships they have with other young people. Often they're much more mature than their peers because of the responsibility that they live with. And so for us, we've seen a huge increase in the number of young carers that are struggling with their mental health.
There's always a time to focus on crisis, and that's very much what COVID represented. We need to start moving towards prevention, and that's catching people earlier in their journeys before they get as far as the Lantern Support Service.
The young people are talking about fears, just not being able to go out, not understanding why they're so scared of things. So we've got many young people who just aren't able to do the things they were doing.
The VCS needs to be a true partner on an equal footing within that group.
It's mainly financial. I'd love to have a youth worker sat on the sofa giving support every night, but I haven't got the finances to do it. There's got to be more funding out there for places like us. With the cuts in youth work, as a voluntary organisation, we can make a little bit of money go a very, very long way. And our staff, we're not on high wages. Because we're a charity, we're on minimum wage, and we still do, on top of our paid roles, voluntary work. I can make £5,000 go a very long way.
One of my big hopes for Strategic Alliance would be that they open lines of communication between all of the agencies working with young people, so that we really have clear understanding of what those young people's needs are, and then actually how each of our organisations can meet them, but without all clamouring for the same resource at the same time.
Well, I think what's really good is if the Strategic Alliance involve the third sector, then we're on board. We're somewhere near knowing what they're wanting to happen within Dorset Council. I think for the third sector, we can be doing things and aiming to do things, listening to families and children, setting things up, getting money involved, and then it may be at a higher level they're saying, we don't want that in Dorset, we're going to do it this way. So I actually think Strategic Alliance would be really good for that letting the third sector know what is their aims. It's not just about the children and young people's plan. There's far more to it than that. We want to know what their steps are so that we can then work alongside them. Partnership's key for the young people getting what they need.
I think they can support the VCS sector by listening to what we're trying to do, working in partnership, true partnership, working together to meet the needs so that children and families across Dorset get the best possible care they can. 0 to 25 have been brilliant. The range of training that they've provided us and linking us with each other has meant that we can offer services that complement each other. We're not duplicating services, but we can also really understand what families and children and young people need across Dorset and what's going on with our local authority and Strategic Alliance. So it's just brilliant.
But the main thing was the connections, actually knowing that other organisations are going through what you're going through, learning from other organisations. We'd never get to see and hear what each other's doing. So that has to be the best learning for the last 15 years, I think. For me, anyway. I really do believe that.
It provides resource to the whole community. So actually, instead sometimes of us, each as individuals, trying to all go after the same thing, what the 0 to 25 community does is it brings us together, and actually there's a centralised resource that we can all tap into.
You're like the cushion. You're our backup all the time. You've got our backs. Any queries we've got, you're there with the answer. And if you haven't got the answer, you'll find the answer and say, I'll get back to you. So yeah, we are, you're important to us. You really are important, aren't they, Claire?
Dynamic,
Flexible,
Effective,
And passionate.
Community,
value for money.
Giving young people a voice,
Professional,
Informative,
family,
essential,
Varied,
adaptable,
kind,
helpful,
Committed.
supportive,
strong,
Hardworking.
inclusive.
person-centred. That was the most important one.